1994, I co-wrote the first book on workplace violence in the United States. The book was called Ticking Bombs, Diffusing Violence in the Workplace. I interviewed a murderer in that book, a double murderer. A guy killed two people here in San Diego, a guy named Robert Mack. Worked at General Dynamics, shot and killed the HR supervisor that handled his termination, shot and paralyzed his boss, who subsequently died. Is that right? January of 92? Okay. What'd you do for the organization? Did you know Robert Mack?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't think there was
I'm glad you're still. I bet. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you weren't involved in that situation. I went to the prison where Robert Mack is housed in San Luis Obispo back in 1993, and I asked him one question, which is what? What'd you do that for? And he talked in his prison cell with me for about 4 hours about why he did what he did. I came out of that experience and I wrote the book, Ticking Bombs. I wrote it with a psychologist, a guy named Michael Mantell. Mantell was Oprah's Dr. Phil before there was a Dr. Phil. So he was on Oprah all the time. I wrote that book with Mantell because he was the police psychologist in San Diego at the time, and he handled one of the worst tragedies, not in San Diego, not in California, not in the United States, but in the world. In 1984, when I had been a cop for exactly 10 days, a guy went into a McDonald's in San Ysidro and killed 21 people. That was the worst thing I ever saw in my police career, and all I looked at was the photographs, just the Polaroids. So are we a stranger to violence in this city? The answer is no. In this country, the answer is no. So a couple things come to mind. When I started working on the workplace violence book, some patterns and themes came out from people who were more likely to harm folks, come into a school or a church or a workplace or a business. A couple, three factors. It's not a profile, these are behaviors. Number one, economic stress. What does that mean? Can't pay my bills. It's your fault, company who fired me, or your fault, somebody who hurt me so I can't pay my bills. Two, mental illness. Is everybody who's mentally ill dangerous? The answer is no. If they are, they're dangerous to who? Themselves. And three, and this is the biggest one for me, the desire for revenge. Do we see people in this country who are helpless and hopeless that have that desire for revenge? So I want you to think about a couple things. One, when you look at the news and the cases that you see, we see two types of people, but only one of them shows up. We see one group of people we call hunters, another group of people we call howlers. The good news is the vast majority of people in this country who threaten to harm other folks are howlers. I'm going to get you, I'm going to kill you, you'll be sorry, I'm going to burn down the building, I'm going to get you, blah, blah, blah. The other group of people we call hunters. What do they say? Nothing. So the Secret Service, who trained me, and the U.S. Marshals, and I'll talk about their model in just a second, said we have more to be concerned with from people who do not make threats than those who do. That doesn't make counterintuitive sense, does it? It sounds backwards. The guy's threatening. We should be concerned. Okay, definitely. Perimeter control, access control, how close he gets to people, etc. We're talking about this facility. But the guy that scares me is the one who says, all right, this isn't over, but he doesn't say it out loud. Now here's the good news about hunters. They tell people. They don't tell the target. That'd be bad for them, wouldn't it? They'd get arrested or put in a mental health facility. Who do they tell? Co-workers, friends, relatives, people that they know. And why would they make those kinds of warnings? I'm going to hurt somebody. Why would they do that? A couple reasons. What are they? Maybe if I tell somebody, what will happen? They'll talk me out of it. They'll stop me, and I don't really have to do it. If I told you this weekend I was going to go skydiving, and all I talked about was how much skydiving is going to be great this Saturday and how the wind's going to rush through what's left of my hair and how excited I am about skydiving, what's the first question you ask me on Monday? How was skydiving? And if you know me, I wouldn't go. I don't like heights. I don't even like being this tall, okay? So I wouldn't go. But if I told you as a man, I'm going to go skydiving, what have I just said? I got to go skydiving. So one of the reasons why they do these things is to either A, get talked out of it, or B, to talk themselves into doing it. So there's some really good research by some folks at the Marshal Service who said that howlers do not hunt and hunters do not howl. The minute somebody starts moving on a path from ideas to action, I think I'll get a gun and show up at a church. They're no longer a howler. They're a what? They're a hunter. So our job in whatever form you come across folks, is to knock them off this path from ideas to actions. And maybe it's how we treat them. Maybe it's through customer service. Maybe it's through courtesy. Maybe it's through kindness. Maybe it's through shepherding. Maybe it's through helping them. Can we pick our customers that come into this building? What's the answer? Nope. We have mentally ill people coming in here. I don't mean tonight. I mean on the weekends. Okay? Tough crowd, man. You eat each other. Okay, so we can't always pick our customers. So this idea of being on a path from ideas to actions, do these people sort of stick out? I say this with love in my heart. I have a doctoral degree in business administration, a master's in security, and a bachelor's in psychology. I say this with love in my heart. Crazy people look crazy. Don't they? Let's look at the guy in Tucson. Who smiles during their mugshot? Please, come on. Right? Hunter or Howler? Guy in Tucson. How do we know? Did he have a plan? Did he work the plan? Did he move from ideas to actions? Were people, quote, concerned about this cat? Yeah. Here's what pains me. In the aftermath of these situations, a lot of people who knew a little bit came forward and said, I was concerned about the guy too. What are we trying to do before that ever happens? Talk about stuff with each other, with Mike, with John, with Jason. Talk about these things with each other and say, hey, I'm a little concerned about this person here who I've been come in contact with, who's saying or doing these things. You know, I'm no psychologist, but a reasonable person looking at this guy would be concerned. Can we agree that that's what a good self-defense is talking about stuff and not going, he's probably just kidding. Let me change the dynamic on Hunter versus Howard just for one little piece for you here. There's a certain type of man in this world who says, if I can't have you, ladies fill in the rest, women only, no one else can. I was a DV detective for 6 years. I handled 1,500 cases in that time span. If I can't have you, nobody else can. Those are howlers who ultimately do what? Hunt. So whenever someone has previous sexual intimacy with the victim and they say, I'm going to kill her, I'm significantly concerned. Do we have situations where people show up in public places who have restraining orders against them or go to the person's church or work or their veterinary's office and shoot them because they used to be in love with them? Happens all the time, doesn't it? So that's the exception to hunters don't howl and howlers don't hunt. So in talking with John and with Jason about what I want to talk to you about today, one of the concepts I think is critical in our world now is the concept of safe rooms. If you cannot evacuate in the presence of an active shooter, go to a safe room. Is a safe room, where's my slides? Is it a bulletproof chamber like this vault here? What is it? Just a room where you can do what? Lock the door, barricade the door, keep the bad guy out until the cops get here. In the old days, the cops used to surround the building and wait for the SWAT team. Everybody see the Blues Brothers? Remember the hut guys? Hut, right? Now they go inside with active shooter protocols, right? So now we don't wait for the cops come inside and now they go after these guys. Where do you want to be? Where do we want to get our folks that are here for services? Where do we want to get them out of harm's way? Either evacuate as quickly as possible or into a safe room. So I'm going to talk about that concept. As I was preparing for this conversation today, somebody sent me, and John, maybe you know about this from NYPD. NYPD just came out with a brand new report on active shooters today. So I downloaded some of the stats I want to talk to you about it. Could I see the next slide? So I want to talk to you about some cases. I want to talk to you about some scenarios. People that come into our facility who could be visitors, vendors, guests, people that come for service, but there also could be crooks, could be domestic violence perpetrators. I want to talk about the pros and cons of safe rooms. What's the biggest pro? Gets you out of harm's way. What's the biggest con? Trapped. If the bad guy worked here and he knew where all the safe rooms were, what would happen then? We'd have some problems, right? It's not a perfect solution. Is getting out of the building safe sometimes? Yes, that'd be job one. Job two would be go to a safe place and lock it down. As many people, little kids, adults, into a room until we wait for the arrival of the cops. I want to talk to you more about this concept of hunters and howlers. I want to show you a DVD on active shooters and this concept of safe rooms. The DVD is about 15 minutes long. It's not bloody. It's not like Driver's Ed, you know, red asphalt number 22. It's not like that, right? There's only a couple things on the video. One, the bad guy looks just like Charles Manson. I can't do anything about that. He looks just like Charles Manson. And the second one is the cops are less than gentle in this DVD. When they come inside to go after Charles Manson, they break a few eggs. Is that going to happen in real life? Will the responding police team that comes inside to go after an active shooter, will they stop to render first aid for somebody? Will they stop to pick up somebody on the ground? Will they rush by to get inside and trample over some folks? Yeah. So we want to make sure that we're out of harm's way when that's happening. So I want to show you that DVD. Everybody in this room is a shepherd. I've been a shepherd my entire adult life. When I was 15 years old, I got robbed in this little grocery store that I worked at in Claremont. Guy came in and put a gun to my head and said, "Give me all the money. Give me the keys to the Dropbox." Not being bulletproof, I pointed to my partner and said, "He has them, he has them." Guy took $800, which in 1978 was a lot of money. Still a lot of money now. And as I was laying on the ground with a gun to my head, my face on the concrete, I said, I weighed about 107 pounds back in those days. I said, "No one will ever get the drop on me like that ever again." That's why I went into the cops. So I've been a shepherd my entire adult life. I try to take care of people who are afraid, just like you do. You try to take care of people who are fearful of their safety and their security. But let me ask you an important question. If you're a shepherd, who do you take care of first? Yourself. Then who? The other shepherds in this room, then the flock. That's how it works. Take care of yourself first. Take care of the other shepherds in this room, then take care of the flock. When I was in the cops, same model, right? Take care of myself first, my partner second, the community third. That's the way it goes. Okay? Take care of yourself first. That's what shepherds do. You can't be helpful if you're not around, correct? Take care of the other shepherds in this room, then take care of the flock. Next slide, please. So let me look at some of these statistics here. NYPD looked at 281 cases from 1966 to 2010, active shooters. Somebody showed up at a business, a church, a school, and shot people. Big shock here, right? 96% of the active shooters are male. Anybody surprised by that? Men have been doing that since the caves, right? 15 to 19-year-old males, 35 to 44-year-olds. Where are the 15 and 19-year-olds going? School, 35 to 44-year-olds, right? Workplace or domestic violence, right? Now, there are some 35 to 44-year-olds in this room, right? Some of you are looking more conspiratorially at your friends now. We're not about age ranges. We're not talking about profiles. We're talking about not the P word, profiling. We're talking about the B word, behaviors. Behaviors. 98% of the incidents were carried out by a single attacker. Here's the problem in this country. We're really, really good at keeping track of organized nuts. The Crips, the Bloods, the Hells Angels, the white supremacists, the Posse Comitatus guys that print their own driver's licenses in Idaho. We can keep track of those cats really well. Lone nuts, like this guy in Tucson, not so good. Is it illegal to be crazy? Yes or no? Is it illegal to be crazy? It's not. Is it illegal to write all kinds of odd writings and plans and schemes on your blog that nobody reads? It's not. 98% of these people by themselves. The median number of deaths or wounded in each case was 2. Higher in some, less in others, but typically 2. 36% of active shooters involve more than one weapon. These people overarm themselves. Multiple guns, multiple weapons. This guy in Tucson, extended length magazines. 46% of active shooter attacks end with force being used by the police or security, armed or unarmed, simply tackling the guy sometimes, as has happened in Tucson. He wasn't shot, he was held down. 40% of active shooter attacks end with the attacker's suicide, or in some cases suicide by cop. That surprise anybody? That's their plan sometimes, isn't it? I'm too much of a coward to live my life, so I'm going to have somebody else take it for me. 41% had a professional relationship with their closest victims. They engaged in something we call targeted violence. Targeted violence. If you got fired, who's the likely candidate for targeted violence? Your boss or the HR director. In a church, who might it be, as has happened around this country? The pastor, or somebody who told this person their least favorite word, which is what? No. Domestic violence, targeted violence, who is it? The spouse. Less than 1/3 of the cases was an ex-employee. Most people, they get fired from their job or they leave their job, they go off and get another one. Very small number of people. Next slide, please. When I started in this business in 1992 doing the research, about 1,100 people were killed at work each year by somebody. What are the 3 most dangerous jobs in the United States to be killed? What are they? Don't say postal worker, that's a cliche. Keep in mind, these people hate Christmas. Just file that away. They hate Christmas. IRS, no, but not close. Don't say crab fishermen. Crabs don't shoot guns, right? Number 3 is cops. More cops have been killed in the first 3 weeks of this year than the first 5 months of last year. Number 2, retail store clerk. Number 1, cab driver. Most dangerous job in the United States, right? To be killed by somebody. So when I started in this business, 1,200 people, 1,100 people were killed at work. It's down to 575 now. What do you think's made us so much better? Is the world less crazy, less guns? What's made it better? Awareness, training, paying attention to not P words, profiles, but behaviors. So here's what the New York Police Department said. Let's talk about some procedures. Conduct a security assessment of your facility. Seem reasonable? Figure out about door locks and desk locks and shredders and alarms and cameras and security guards. Conduct an assessment. Is that reasonable? Yeah. Multiple evacuation routes. Practice evacuation under varying conditions. I have a lot of clients that talk about evacuations, never do fire drills, never do safe room drills, never do anything. Under stress, we go back to what? Under stress, we go back to how we have been trained, yes? If there's a life-threatening emergency in your business at work, your company, what number do you dial for help? Quickly, what number? Yep. Some of you, how about 911? For some of you, you have to dial 9 to get an outside line, yeah? If you dial 911 at your business, you might get extension 11, which is not what you want. So I've just taught you something that under stress, you go back to what you've been told since you're about 4 years old is 911, in which case that may not work. Set up evacuation so that folks with disabilities can get out. Designate shelter locations, thick walls, solid doors, door locks, no windows, first aid, communication, duress alarms, safe rooms, which we'll talk about. Not a bulletproof chamber, place to be. Break room, restroom, conference room, training room, this room, little kids, classroom, so we can put people in and lock the doors. Not a perfect solution. Second best to getting out. That's what we're going to talk about today. Point of contact with folks in law enforcement. We have that not only in the room, but in the city as well. Next slide, please. Incorporate active shooter drills into our planning and preparation. Most people don't do that. They don't practice this stuff because they think, it'll never happen here. I missed 9/11 by 3 days. Some of you from New York know what it's like to be back there. I was back there flew home on Saturday. It happened on Tuesday. I'd walked through that complex of buildings and thought nothing of it. These things don't happen here, is what I hear from a lot of people after something's happened. In this country, we are driven by events, are we not? We didn't care about airline security until when? 9/11. They had a shoe bomber. What kind of idiot steps on the bomb all the way to the plane, anyway? So now you got to take off your shoes. Then they had the underwear bomber. I'm afraid to go to the airport. Security patrols, patterns of operation that vary. Limit access to the blueprints or floor plans, except make those available to the cops, but don't put them all over the place so people know about our facility. Establish a central command station for building security. We've done some of those things here, have we not? Some of those things are in place. Does it make sense? Okay, we're not breaking new ground here. We're just reminding folks of things that we should be doing in just about every business in the United States. Next slide. I'm sorry? Oh, somewhere? Yes. You bet. So his point is a good one, which is all the information about how to defeat security or what tactics are being used on the internet, isn't it? And so is that evidence of being a hunter or a howler when you go online and look up that stuff? Hunter behavior. Can you get the recipe for methamphetamine online? Sure. Put in place credential-based access control systems, key card readers, we have that here too, to tell us where folks are. Camera systems, we have that here too, right? Communications infrastructure, be able to put out PA messages and things like that. That's big in schools now, isn't it? Especially college campuses. Broadcast fax, broadcast email, broadcast text. Anybody like me? I have an 18-year-old daughter. You take her to dinner, all you see is the top of her head. I'm like, can you just stop for 5 seconds? The answer is no. Elevator systems that can be controlled or locked down. Next slide. Train building occupants into the active shooter protocol, some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. Can't get out, go to a safe room. Call 911 or 911, depending on what the facility phone system is. Train people that when the cops come, they're going to take care of their business and you need to be out of harm's way so that they can do their job. Next slide. So, here's what the NYPD report said. Evacuate, hide, take action. Didn't I just say that before we started talking? First choice is what? Out of the building. Second choice is what? Safe room, lock it down. Third choice, Flight 93, what'd they do? Took action. Not a great world, not a great opportunity. 20 of you, one of him, do the best you can. There's some people in here who have tactical training. There's some people here, a lot of people here in this room have brave hearts and brave souls and can go after bad people. Sometimes that stuff works very well, doesn't it? Next slide. This is Jiverly Wong. Jiverly Wong went into the Binghamton, New York American Civic Association where a bunch of folks are taking English classes and killed, I don't know, 20, what does it say? 13 people? 26 people, it says in this slide here, while this shooting was going on, hid in the basement boiler room of the building, which we would call a what? Safe room. They survived. He shot himself, as these people typically do. They always get the equation backwards, don't they? Shoot yourself, then go shoot all these other people, right? They always get that backwards, always. So Jiverly Wong hid in, the people who are afraid of this guy, Jiverly Wong, hid in the basement boiler room of that facility. Did it say in big letters, safe room on it? No. Was it a good place to be in that situation? Yeah. Should you do a little thinking while it's calm and peaceful and you got a little spaghetti in your stomach to think about this kind of stuff so that under stress you go back to blank? There's fight and there's flight. The middle F is the worst one, which is freeze. I just blacked out, blanked, didn't know what to do. Thinking about things in terms of imprinting certain anchors into your approach when it's calm and peaceful is how you remember it under stress. How you remember how to do it under stress. Next slide. Here's Cho. I was at a conference, I did a full day thing for the Houston Community College where we had 300 people in the room. They were all community college administrators for Houston. They have 85,000 students over 860 square miles of campuses. And we had a guy from Virginia Tech, the corporate lawyer, corporate counsel, talk about that case. This guy here, Hunter Haller, did he have a plan? Did he work the plan? Did he move from ideas to actions? Were a lot of people concerned but didn't know what to do about it? Yeah. So the gentleman here in the corner is a, I think, Romanian Holocaust survivor. He's a visiting professor. He blockaded the door so that Cho couldn't come inside and injure or kill more people, and he was killed in the ensuing incident. He created a safe room for his students. He created a safe room for the kids in his class. He did not survive. Sometimes shepherds don't survive, do they? Sometimes they don't. Next slide. This is Richard Farley. Richard Farley is the poster child for workplace violence with, comparing faces and beards here, workplace violence and with a love angle in it in the United States. Richard Farley was obsessed with a woman named Laura Black. He kept saying, go out with me, go out with me, go out with me. She wasn't interested in him. That meant to his eyes double down and call and bother her even more. He ended up getting fired as a result of that. The organization did what many organizations do, which I don't always advise them to do, which is get a restraining order. What did the restraining order become for Richard Farley? It's called a triggering event, is it not? Put him over the top, didn't it? He showed up at the facility with a shotgun and some handguns, shot through the facility, killed 7 people, wounded 4. Cops surrounded the building, got himself to give himself up. This happened in, what, 88? Still on San Quentin on death row. I watched an interview that was done with him, and he thought, I should have been more methodical. I should have got more people. I didn't plan that very well. So Richard Farley, in his situation there, when he came through the hallways and shot people, some brave folks, shepherds, grabbed one of the injured victims and pulled him into the office and slammed the door and locked it and propped the guy up against the door. Richard Farley shot through the door and killed that guy. In police work, we talk about the fatal funnel. Where do you not want to be in a safe room? Next to the door. Is it a perfect world? No. What's the likelihood of somebody like this coming into this facility? I don't give those kind of odds, do I? In my work, do we predict violence or do we assess dangerousness? Which one is it? We assess dangerousness. If I could predict anything, I wouldn't be here, would I? Vegas, Reno, Atlantic City, right? I wouldn't be here. Did you hear about the guy that went to Las Vegas in an $80,000 BMW, came home in a $250,000 Greyhound bus? Anyway. So what do restraining orders tell us sometimes? They work really well for good rule followers. What do we know about guys like this? Not the greatest rule followers in the whole wide world. So in that situation, made it instantly worse. So a restraining order for somebody who's coming into this facility and bothering folks might be a really good idea and might not. If the person goes away and doesn't bother anybody in the parking lots or in the building or doesn't call or come in here and just goes away, what should we let them do? Go away. Some of you country folks like me, what should we let sleeping dogs do? Let them lie. Don't go into the bear cave and start poking the bear. What happens? Wake up, right? Let's get a restraining order. Why? To tell the guy to stay away. Well, he's already staying away. Well, let's reinforce that. Okay, now you gave him one, now he starts showing up again. Albrecht's law of unintended consequences, yeah? Next slide. Safe room, best chance of survival if evacuation is not possible in an active shooter situation. So what am I saying is number one? Out. Call for help outside in a safe place. 2, safe room. Law enforcement agencies are trained in new responses which can increase the success and survival rates of these incidents if we're out of their way. Cops get there, they know bad guy from good guy? Could it be a woman? Do women do bad things? Occasionally. My wife's a sex crimes detective. I've been with my wife 20 years, she's been a cop 24 of them. When she says, I want you to go do this, I go, okay, that sounds great to me. Don't forget, right? I'm laying there sleeping, she's accidentally cleaning her 9mm and goes off several times into me. I'm aware of that. If the shooter is or was an employee, they know the location of the safe room. Is that true? Or a visitor or a guest or a vendor? Maybe. It's not a perfect world. That's why we don't designate one room to be the safe room. What's a good safe room? Any place you can be that you can lock or barricade the door, wherever you happen to be. Might a safe room be a utility closet where we keep the brooms and the cleaning stuff? Yeah. It's not the Holiday Inn, right? It's not the Ritz-Carlton. It's a place to be for 5 to 55 minutes until the cops come and do what they do, which is to neutralize the threat. Next slide. If the shooter's been to the facility, they may have the same familiarity issues as you, plus they may engage in targeted violence. How do we prevent against targeted violence? We listen to people. We listen to them, what they say and how they act and what their behavior is and how they talk to us and how we talk to them. Can how we treat people go a long way towards driving them off of the path from ideas to actions? Yeah. When I do high-risk discipline and termination, I give people compassion. I treat them with humility and dignity. I try to give them, as we would say on a game show, lovely parting gifts, severance, access to medical care, things like that that folks might need who are under stress. You may have to make some very hard decisions about who to let into a safe room. Let me tell you a quick story. I'm not asking you to make any decisions. Let me just tell you a story. Guy is dating a woman at a manufacturing plant. They both work in the same plant. So does her ex-boyfriend. You can see where this is going. He's over at her place, hanging out, eating, chatting, they're watching the tube. Old boyfriend shows up with a gun, front door. Girlfriend looks out the back door. New boyfriend jumps into his car and speeds out of there. Now he goes to the one place, since they live really close to the work, he goes to the one place he thinks he might be safe because they have armed guards there. He drives back to the workplace. Old boyfriend follows him. They do a whole Starsky and Hutch, Dukes of Hazzard, crash through the chain link fence, past the security guards, both of the cars right up to the side of the building. New boyfriend gets out of his car, runs up to the back door of the facility. The risk manager, the safety director, who's a woman, sees him and sees the guy chasing after him with a gun and locks the door. He's shot and killed. Bad guy shot himself and survived. I think she did the right thing. As horrible as that sounds, I think she did the right thing. Who's she trying to protect? Not just herself, who? Everybody in that facility. How many people were at risk in that facility? As many bullets as he had. And how many bullets did the guy in Tucson have? 30? 31? That's a horrible ethical dilemma to put yourself into. Now, if one of your colleagues is pounding on the door saying, let me in, you say, I've never liked you. All those years you ate my sandwich out of the break room and took my Gatorade even though it had my name written on the label. I hope you're survived. No. We use good common sense in these situations. We bring people in, as many folks as possible, kids and everybody else, and we lock it down, but we use good common sense. But in some situations, a safe room is no longer a safe room when the door is open. I'm just asking you to think about that. Next one, please. Ladies, what's wrong with this picture? Jennifer San Marco killed 6 people at the post office. Insert your usual jokes here. In 2006, she came back to the facility after being gone for 2 years on psychological reasons, had no contact with the organization whatsoever, showed back up after she bought a couple of guns at 2 different pawn shops in Albuquerque and somewhere else, was hanging around with a bunch of white supremacist cats, shaved her head, got into the postal facility because she followed into the gate as it was closing and then robbed one of the employees of her key card, got inside, shot these people, and then shot herself. Sheriff's Department for Santa Barbara got there and thought it was a man, kind of a big girl, shaved head, wearing the clothing of choice for all mass murderers, which is what? Camouflage. What's wrong with this picture? It's a woman. First case of workplace violence, mass murder involving a woman in the United States. Been individual incidents, but not mass murder like her. Looks pretty kind and harmless in that photo, right? That's why we don't focus on the P word, profiles, because she doesn't fit the profile, does she? Because she's a woman. What do we focus on? Behaviors. Thank you. Okay. Some of you are looking at the women more carefully in the room now. Cover me. I'm going for coffee. Right. Next slide. Hunters and howlers. Howlers' function is to make people feel what? Make them feel afraid. I'm going to get you. You'll be sorry. That could mean I'm going to sue you or burn the place down or wait for you outside. What's the function of a howler? Make people feel afraid, act like a big shot, put people on notice, intimidate folks. What's the function of a hunter? Hurt somebody. Hurt somebody. Now, are howlers dangerous? Yes, sometimes. Because they flip a little switch in their head that says, howling is not working for me because as much as I'm an obnoxious, threatening jerk, no one's paying any attention to me, I got to ramp it up a little bit. Is that true? So do we take those folks seriously? Do we let them disrupt services or frighten other people? The answer is no. Should there be consequences for howler behavior? Let me give you a scenario. Somebody calls in a bomb threat in this facility. Is that a hunter behavior or a howler behavior? Howler, thank you. A+ for you. Because most of my sheriff and police and fire friends say, oh, let's evacuate the facility and bring in the helicopters and the hazmat teams. That's howler behavior. Real bombers in the United States don't make bomb threats. McVeigh, Kaczynski, they just put bombs. Now, does it mean we don't look for a bomb? We do. Does it mean we don't try to get the police to find out who made the bomb threat? We do. But that's howler behavior. So, what turns people into hunters? How we treat them, how they feel like they're running out of options, their mental illness gets worse, their drug and alcohol use gets worse, all those things, right? But here's the thing the Secret Service told me. They talk to other people. They tell other people. And people discount that, don't they? Hey, he's just kidding. He wouldn't really do that. They wouldn't really do that. They're just kidding around. They're just venting. We listen to those things, don't we? When people are on a path from ideas to actions. And here's what I want you to think about. Stop obsessing like we do in this country over motive. We care all the time in the news media about motive, do we not? Why did he do it? Bedwetting or not enough love from mommy or whatever it was, I don't care. All I care about is interrupting the opportunity because I can't fix or understand the motive most of the time. The motive's Islamic fundamentalism. The motive is mental illness. The motive is revenge. The motive is my new wife has a new husband. Those are all motives. I can't fix any of those motives. I can only interrupt the opportunity. True? News media loves to talk about motives. The guy in Tucson, what is his motive? He's mentally ill, which isn't illegal. You take a gun and shoot at a congressman and shoot and kill a judge and shoot and kill other folks, including children. Different story. Let's interrupt the opportunity best as we can. We're not building bulletproof chambers. We're trying to make something which is extremely rare, but also extremely catastrophic from happening here. Extremely rare that it might happen here. Extremely rare, but extremely catastrophic, yes? In the United States, how many kids died in school fires last year? School fires, how many kids were killed in school fires? Zero. Why? Smoke alarms, fire alarms, hoses, extinguishers. Handsome firemen show up at the school and teach these kids, what is it? Sleep, eat, and drop, or leap, smoke, jump around, eat, and whatever. What is it called? Stop, drop, and roll, right? So, as a result, no deaths by fire in the United States. 35 kids per year killed in school violence in and around the school. Training, awareness, vigilance, being a shepherd, safe rooms.